Wondering what centers to practice rhythm in the music classroom looks like? Keep watching for specific examples to practice rhythm with first grade. For music education tips and tricks, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified each week when I post a new video. Hi, I'm Aileen Miracle from the blog Mrs. Miracle's Music Room. I'm an elementary music educator who's been teaching for 20 years, and I love to share ideas for the music classroom. This video is for you if you're wondering how to implement centers to practice rhythm with your younger students, but you can also take these ideas and apply them to the upper grades as well. I've shared some of these ideas on my blog as well as at workshops that I've presented, and I'm excited to share them with you today. So, what are centers and why should you use them? Well, I actually just posted a video about that. I will leave a link below, so make sure to check that video out if you haven't watched it yet, so you can get an overview of what centers are and the benefits of using them. So if you're trying to figure out what kind of centers you could use for any concept, I have a formula that I often use when trying to figure out which kind of centers I'm going to use with my students. So today we'll talk about rhythm, but this formula can apply to really any concept. So let's say you have 4 centers. The first center could be instruments. The second center could be focused on technology, whether you're using your smartboard or iPads or Chromebooks, whatever you have. The third center could be manipulatives, and the fourth center could be assessment. Now let's say you don't have any technology in your room, then you could change that technology station to be a game station. Like I said, the centers I'm going to discuss today will be for ta and tt, or quarter notes and eighth notes, but you could use them with really any rhythms. You could use this structure, or a lot of the ideas that I'm sharing with you today could also work with other rhythmic concepts. So let's start off with center number 1. Let's say you're practicing ta and tt with first grade and your first center is at instruments. What I actually just did last week with my first graders is I had a bunch of rhythm flashcards for ta and tt, or quarter notes and eighth notes, on music stands. So I had 2 flashcards to a stand, and then I had a bunch of bins of different non-pitch percussion instruments such as hand drums, wood blocks, rhythm bells, really whatever you have in your classroom. And I told students that they could choose any instrument they wanted, go through all of the rhythm flashcards and play all of the patterns on their instrument, and then when they were done with that, they could put that instrument away, get another instrument out, and do the same thing with a different instrument. And I modeled to students what not to do, like let's not just get an instrument and start playing a bunch, because then I know you're actually not following the directions. Make sure that you are playing patterns that have ta and tt in them and reading all the patterns and playing them. So that is center number 1. For center number 2, for the technology center, you could have students use your smartboard and read rhythm patterns off your smartboard. So I'm going to show you a fun PDF that I have my students use. I actually just had them use it last week to practice reading rhythm patterns. So in this game, you can project it onto your smartboard. If you don't have a smartboard, you could use your teacher computer, and then students can just come up and choose a snowball. But if you do have a smartboard, then you can use a squishy ball, which I've gotten in the party section of Target. It's just like a little squishy ball that you can have students throw at the smartboard, which I know sounds a little bit crazy that you'd have them throw something at your smartboard, but it's really just as hard as like a student tapping the board. And let's say a student comes up, throws a squishy ball up here and hits this one right here, and then that student would read ti ta, or whatever rhythm language you use, and then they can touch that snowball again. Maybe another student comes up and hits the smartboard here, then that child reads ta ti, and you go back to the home screen, and so on. I will talk in a minute about how to download this game for free. So if you are doing manipulatives for center number 3, then something that I have found that works really well for ta and tt is to use popsicle sticks. So I'll show you what I have in my bag here. I have regular size popsicle sticks, which could be like your tas. I have foam hearts, which I got these, I think, at Joann Fabrics or Michael's. Just any craft store should have something like that. And they come in different sizes. These are pretty small, but I also have some ones that are bigger. So the students could lay out 4 hearts. And then underneath the hearts, they can write their tas and TTs. So your TT could be made with 2 regular popsicle sticks, and then these little mini popsicle sticks. I got these on Amazon. If you search mini popsicle sticks, you should find them. And they can write their TTs like so. So you could have them dictate the rhythm of a song or a chant they know well, or you could also have them just compose their own ta and TT pattern. Like maybe you have them compose a 4-beat pattern or an 8-beat pattern, and then they have to read it or perform it, and then or share it with a friend, and then they compose or create another, however you want to do it. So for your last center, you could have an assessment. For this particular concept, I have had students get into a single file line, and they each individually read all 5 of these patterns to me. So I'll close up a little bit there. So they'll start with ta, ta, ti, ti, ta, and read all of the patterns, hopefully to a steady beat, and hopefully they remember which one's ta and which one's TT, and they end with ta, TT, ta, ta, which is a little bit trickier of a pattern. So I have them read all 5 patterns to me, and I'm listening for, like I said, can they read it to a steady beat? Do they remember what the rhythms are? Do they need my help? And then I can right there on my iPad go ahead and give them a grade on a scale of 1 to 4. 4 would be like they can consistently keep a steady beat and they say all of the patterns perfectly. 3, they pretty much have it. 2 would be more where they're like struggling and they need your assistance. And then 1 would be like they can't do it all at all, even with your assistance. So this is a really quick and easy assessment, and it's a great way to listen to students individually, because sometimes when you're, with your whole class, you think, oh yeah, they totally have it. But then, you listen to them individually, and it can be eye-opening. I've had a couple students who, per class usually, who maybe struggle a little bit with this, and it's really interesting to see, how well they understand. And then you might have students who maybe they're not participating that much in the whole group, but then when they do this, they totally read it really well. So it's just really interesting. And then you have, like I said, a quick and easy grade. Now, I will leave a link below for you to download this for free, as well as the PDF with all the snowballs that I shared with you for center number 2. You can get those both for free by signing up for my email list. So like I said, check that link below to get this reading assessment, as well as the group reading assessment where students throw a squishy ball. Now let's say it's close to summer and you want to do something like this and you don't really want something with snowballs on it. What you could do is just take index cards and write a 4-beat rhythm pattern on each index card and just go through the index cards and have students read them to you. So just to do a quick summary again, we have 4 centers, and let's say you have students, throwing a squishy ball at the smartboard at one center and reading rhythm patterns. At the next center, they could be reading individually to you. And I forgot to mention, so that students aren't just standing in line waiting for it to be their turn, you could give them something else to do. Like I just did this last week, and I had students working on iPads just with a fun music app while they're waiting for their turn. So we have technology, assessment, manipulatives. They could be composing or dictating rhythm patterns with popsicle sticks or with other rhythm manipulatives that you have. And then at the last center, they can play rhythm patterns on non-pitch percussion, and then they put that instrument away when they're done, and then they get another instrument. Now, after I explain all 4 centers, I do a quick summary, just like I did with you, with the students, here's a quick reminder, here are the 4 centers that I just talked about. Then I split them up into 4 groups. You could do that just like by their class number, like if your number is 1 through 6, go to center number 1. If your number is 7 through 12, go to number 2. If you want to differentiate, you could also have students in center groups by ability, or it could be like a heterogeneous grouping where you have some kids who are high, some who are middle, and some who are low. There's tons of different ways you can do that. And of course, you want to watch for behavior, like maybe you look at your groups beforehand and you make sure that those groups are going to work. Now, if you want to add more centers, you could do that. I talked about that in my last video. So sometimes I do 6 centers, and then instead of telling students which center to go to and when they have to rotate, I tell them that they can go to any centers they want. As soon as they're done with the center, they can go to another center. So they're just moving kind of, at their own pace. But I do often give them a parameter of everybody has to go to at least 3 centers, let's say, or if you have an assessment center, you could say everybody does have to go to this center at some point today. And then you have time for intervention if you need it, which is great. So if you have all 6 centers out, and especially if you're not doing assessment at one of the centers, then you could pull students one at a time to work with them individually if they're struggling with that concept. So I'm going to show you one more idea in case you don't have technology or you do want to add another center so that students can float. I got these chalkboard hearts in the dollar section at Target. So you could have some chalk and some chalkboard hearts, and students could dictate or they could compose like this. Ta ta ti ti ta, and then they can, I don't have an eraser with me, but they could erase it and they could write another pattern, maybe share it with the person next to them. A cute little way to practice ta and TT, especially around Valentine's Day, but really whenever you want. Comment below if you have any questions about centers for rhythm, or you have any center ideas that have worked well for you to practice rhythm. And also make sure to check out my video next week because I will be sharing some ideas for melodic concepts for first grade. I've written some blog posts about centers for rhythm, so I will leave those links below, so make sure to check those out. And I also have put together a set in my TPT store for first grade centers that has rhythmic ideas and melodic ideas and all ready-made materials, and I will leave that link below as well in case you want to check that out. If you'd like to join a community of like-minded music teachers just like you, I will leave a link below to my Facebook group called Mrs. Miracle's Chat Room, where we discuss centers, songs, strategies, any idea for the elementary music room. Thank you so much for watching today. If you like this video, please like it below by giving it the thumbs up. Again, leave any comments with questions you have, and I'm excited to see you in the next video. Bye.